Man, it was not a good summer for traditionalist hockey fans. I mean, you had two teams with 71 and 72 points that got to be part of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Meanwhile, two teams that were at least on pace to finish the season with points in the mid-90s had a 1 in 8 shot each of getting the first overall pick. Then, of course, you had an entire Stanley Cup playoffs with no fans in the stands, which ended up being won by a team from Florida, of all places, even if they were pretty clearly the team that was playing the best in the tournament, even without their captain. Meanwhile, the newest team that's getting ready to enter the league decided to name themselves after a giant mythological squid, which everybody only knows because of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, which is just way too much fun for a league like the NHL to be able to enjoy. I mean, in baseball terms, this summer for hockey was basically the equivalent of somebody balling up the unwritten rules and hitting them over the center field fence while watching them the entire way. And then as summer came to an end, the Stanley Cup was awarded in September and we got into fall, the Vegas Golden Knights decided to put the bat flip on top of all of it with these. By the way, if you find yourself enjoying this video and you like enjoying things, you can subscribe to this channel. Now, I am far from what anybody would consider to be a traditionalist hockey fan, but I do have to admit that my original reaction to these Vegas jerseys was kind of, ugh, really? You went with those? I mean, look, while the idea of gold jerseys is fun and it does suit Vegas really well, with fabric it tends to be pretty hard to pull off and can just end up looking more of a pee stain color than anything else. And while sure, if that is the color of your pee, it is probably worth seeing a doctor or at least hydrating a lot better than you are. It still is not a good look for a professional sports team. But then, given a couple of days and after getting a better look at these jerseys, I have to say that my opinion of them kind of flipped to being more positive. I actually think now that these are pretty sick looking jerseys. And again, I don't mean sick in the medical sense. I will say that I'm still a little unsure how these are going to look from a distance once the players are on the ice and playing a game on TV. But at least up close, and especially if you're thinking about maybe getting one of these jerseys down the road, I do think that somehow they managed to pull these off really well. Somehow managing to get them to have that golden sparkle that really fits the Vegas Strip all too well. And honestly, even if these jerseys don't translate to the ice all that well, I do think that it's really cool that they tried it, and it's a fun concept. And I do have to admit that, at least for me, I do get a little bit of extra enjoyment out of anything that tends to annoy fans that still think that the NHL should only have 6 teams. Plus, as a Kraken fan, if these jerseys do end up just looking like piss stains once they're on the ice, well, that can really only just play into the hands of the fan base of one of their future rivals. Now, this announcement from Vegas did also get me thinking about what I might want to see as a third jersey from Seattle down the road. And admittedly, we probably won't get a third from the Kraken for at least a year or two, but still, it's something that fans think about. Now, one of the reasons that people like me like the name Kraken so much is that it does offer up quite an array of possibilities for what they could potentially do for third jerseys down the road. I mean, they could do anything from going even more out there by putting tentacles on the jersey or something, which isn't necessarily the direction I'd like to see them go in, or they could go more along the lines of what Vegas did with their third jerseys and kind of what I would like to see in just having a similar jersey but with the more out there color. In this case for Seattle, what I would really like to see from a third jersey is still something like what their home jerseys look like, but instead using that ice blue color, which is something that I really think would look nice in the current NHL. And I wouldn't really mind seeing them mess around with the striping on the sleeves and maybe having a nod to the Metropolitans or having dark blue shoulders like this concept from Reddit. But really for me, again, the main thing that I would want from a third jersey for the Kraken is to go with that ice blue color as the main color for the jersey, and maybe go with the anchor logo in a dark blue as the main front logo instead of their primary logo. Now, another idea that could be pretty cool and that I would actually like a lot that is a little bit more out there is to go with even more of a direct nod to the Seattle Metropolitans by basically using their jersey but going with the current colors. Somewhat like what this guy did with his custom jersey. Now, I do have to say that I would be pretty surprised if they went with something like this for a third, but I would actually be even more surprised if we don't see the classic Metropolitans jersey back at some point as more of maybe a stadium jersey down the road. No matter what though, there is one thing that's guaranteed, and that is that not everybody's going to like it. There will be some people that hate whatever the Kraken do, and some people that love whatever the Kraken do. With that in mind, and again with still probably a couple of years before we get to see a third jersey, I'd love to hear what you think you'd like to see for a third down in the comments section below. Or maybe just what you think of Vegas's new jerseys. So I had this video all recorded and edited, and I was getting ready to put it out, and then I kid you not, like an hour before I was actually going to release it, the Dallas Stars decided to release their new thirds for next season. And as soon as I saw them, I knew that I was going to have to put them in this video because, boy oh boy, if there were any traditionalist type of hockey fans that didn't like Vegas's third jerseys, they certainly were not going to like these. And to be honest with these, I kind of get it. They are very out there, and they do kind of feel a little bit more like one of those kind of custom special release jerseys that you see in stores but would never actually see on the ice. Plus, I'm sure it didn't help that for anybody that watched the video that came with the release of these jerseys, the model in it was wearing a very, very dark black tinted visor that would definitely get him made fun of in the NHL, or just pretty much any league down to your local beer league. Which granted is the kind of thing that looks really cool in the NFL, but with hockey, which is a sport that's played for the most part pretty much entirely indoors, and doesn't involve a whole lot of looking up in the lights to find a ball, for example, it's just not really necessary. But again, that has nothing to do with the jerseys, it was just kind of a funny little thing I noticed. It seemed like with the jerseys, most people's biggest complaint was that they no longer looked like the Dallas Stars, and instead looked like the Dallas Monstars, which is not a reference to Space Jam, it was just me trying to get to the fact that people were saying that they just looked like a Monster energy drink team. Which again is a complaint that I really can't disagree with. However, at least as far as I'm concerned, I actually really like these jerseys, or at least I kind of like them anyway. Which I know puts me in the minority, and if you saw my complaints about the Rams jerseys, you're probably wondering how I like these ones and hated those so much. Well, for one, I'd much rather look like a Monster energy drink team than a Best Buy team. And for another thing, the gradient numbers really were that bad. Plus, although these jerseys are definitely a farther departure from the norm, at least as far as jersey stylings are concerned, they do at least look cool and like something people would actually want to buy. Though it is pretty clear that this, much like the Vegas third jerseys, is yet another move by a team that is much more geared to a younger audience and maybe trying to pull the interest of some of those fans. Which I suppose is pretty obvious because I don't think there's anybody in their right mind, from the people styling these jerseys to the ones that released them as the official third jerseys, that really thought that these would go over well with the more traditional fan. And again, as far as I'm concerned, I do like these jerseys, and I really like that it shows signs that yet another NHL team is using some more out-of-the-box thinking when it comes to their marketing, which is something the NHL desperately needs if it wants to continue to grow the game. And to be clear, no, I don't think that if every NHL team made super wacky out-of-the-box third jerseys like this, that they would suddenly become the second most popular league in North America. But I also don't think it can hurt. Now, I do want to make one thing very clear though about how I feel about these jerseys. While I do like them, I like them specifically as a third jersey that pops up every now and then, just a few times a year. Much like Seattle's bright green jerseys that you might have seen me wear in some other videos. The Seahawks only wear those once a year, and once a year I really like them, but if they started to wear those more often, I'd get sick of them really fast. And these Stars jerseys are very similar, not only in their aggressively bright green color, but also in the fact that if the Stars were to wear them as much as, say, the Coyotes wear their Kachina jerseys or the Canes wear their flag jerseys, I would probably start to get sick of them pretty quick. I will say this though, probably my least favorite part about these jerseys, in a world where we're getting the Whalers jerseys back, and there's some talk about potentially getting some Nordique jerseys, I would much rather see a Dallas Stars jersey that is a nod to the North Stars. That being said though, I can kind of understand why they might not want to go with the jersey of a team that was from a city of one of their rivals, even if it is technically part of their franchise's past. Either way, I just thought this would be a fun video to throw out there, so if you have made it to this point, thank you very much for watching. If you did like it, hit that like button down below. If you really liked it, maybe you've enjoyed it, you can always subscribe. Otherwise, again, love to hear your comments down below. Until next time, stay safe out there, and be good to each other. Peace!